Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rogue Eye Media. My name is Alex Schlerf, and today I'm going to be doing my review for James Gunn's Superman. Obviously, this is one of the biggest movies of the summer, and I watched it last night for the first time, a Friday night screening, uploading this on Saturday. And yeah, I'm going to give my thoughts on it. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do a spoiler section. There's like one spoilery thing I want to talk about that comes like the very, very end of the movie. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a particular cameo. But besides from that, I don't really have much spoiler stuff to talk about because of kind of my history with this universe, but or just the DC characters in general. But yeah, so like to give my background on this first before I go into any of my thoughts and rating and stuff like that. I'm not a DC fan, and I don't hate DC or anything like that. I don't have anything against DC. It's just my entire life I've been a Marvel fan, and you guys know this that know me, and from the stuff that I talk about, I've never really jived with any of the characters. I've literally never read a DC comic or a Superman comic or anything like that ever in my life. I'm not saying I never will at any point, but like just to this point, I haven't. So like when it comes to these movies, like these DC movies. I'm not like over the moon hyped about them as like even with this new reboot of the universe because I don't have that experience with the characters. Whereas for a Marvel movie, I'm always really excited because I love the universe and I love the comics. So going to this movie, my main hype for it was the fact that it is James Gunn directing it because I love James Gunn from his Marvel work and also The Suicide Squad was one of my favorite DC movies to come to this point. But besides from that, in terms of like the movies that DC have made to this point, and I haven't seen all of them. Like I haven't seen like the OG Batmans, the OG Supermans. Like I haven't seen those movies. I know they're very iconic and good. I just haven't seen them yet because I don't really care about the character, or either character in that case. But I love James Gunn's work, and oh, I think the only other DC movie that I really enjoyed was Blue Beetle, which flopped to the box office. But I thought Blue Beetle was great. It was creative, fun, good family vibe. But we're not here to talk about Blue Beetle. But my point is that. I think that this movie, and I'm gonna probably get into this later in the review, but I think that this movie and Superman was made to strip Superman down to his like comic origins and make it as comic accurate as possible, which I can appreciate, but it won't stick as well with me and won't get me to like a really insanely high 5-star rating that some people are giving this because I'm just not a fan of the character. But I know I see people online and friends that I have that are big fans of the character give it that 5-star perfect rating because it is the Superman movie they've been waiting for their whole life. And listen, we're gonna get into that in a couple weeks of Fantastic Four. Like I can understand that as a Fantastic Four fan, waiting your whole life for a very comic accurate movie and you finally get it. Like I can totally relate to that, totally understand that, but I'm just giving this as a disclaimer because I don't want like Superman fans to come on my head because I didn't give this a 5-star. Like spoiler alert, I did not give this a 5-star. But like I'm not letting that take away just because I'm not a Superman fan. Like this movie does have flaws, but I'm just getting that off my chest. Like I understand why people are giving this super high rating, but I'm just not that huge connect. I don't have the huge connection to the character like other people have. So anyway, I give this movie a 4 out of 5 stars, and there is a lot of positives. And there's a lot more positives than negatives, and I think this, in the easiest terms, is a very solid start to James Gunn's DCU. And obviously, if you don't know, James Gunn is he directed and wrote this movie, but he also is like the head of the DC universe with like akin to the Kevin Feige of the Marvel universe, if you're aware of that. So. I think this is a very good start to his DCU. I mean, not counting the Creature Commandos, the animated show. Like this is pretty much the kickoff to his universe. And there's a lot of things with that come in my concerns to this movie, but I'm going to start with the positives as always. And I think that the best thing about this movie is they did nail all the cast and the castings. And I might have a little bit of problem on some of the on how many characters they introduced, but just going solely off like the actors that were in this, the actors that played the characters, I think they were great. And I again don't have the comic knowledge to know if these are like 100% one-to-one comic castings and stuff like that. I have heard that, but I can't personally speak to that. But I will say I think David Corenswet did amazing as Superman. I'd only seen him in a couple things before this, and none of them were really akin to Superman. I mean, I saw him in Twisters and with the second X movie, Pearl. I saw him in those two movies, so like those were not in any way similar to the role of Superman. So I wasn't really sure how good he would do, but I do think he does a really good job. And they really portray the fact that Superman is supposed to be this beacon of hope and light on the universe, and that's what makes the dichotomy of Batman and Superman so interesting. Because Batman is this super dark hero, and Superman is very light. I think the previous DC movies kind of failed to capture that dynamic, and then again, that's coming from someone who's not a huge fan, but I can understand that. And I think the previous movies capture or failed, like the previous Superman movies with Henry Cavill, kind of failed to capture that dynamic, and they made him a little bit darker. And I like how this movie lightened him up and made him more just likable in general. I think Corn Sweat does a great job in that category. And going past just him, there's like the main trio, which is Corn Sweat, Rachel Brosnan, and Nicholas Hoult. And out of those three, Corn Sweat was great, Brosnan was great, but Nicholas Hoult stole the show as just a completely menacing and evil character. I mean, he is like a generational hater, and I've heard from other people that that's what Lex Luthor is, and that's kind of who he is, and he's kind of like the Doctor Doom. It's like the Doctor Doom Reed Richards thing in Marvel is like the Nicholas Hoult or the Lex Luthor and Superman thing in the DCU. And I understand that now after watching this movie because like he was a generational hater and he portrayed it so well. It could have come off way too goofy and way too like modern and not like a good take on the character, but his performance is so good and everything about it. I love like his little control room when he's watching Superman and like because they've been watching for a couple of years because this movie takes place 3 years after Superman arrived on Earth. So like he's been watching him for a while. And I love how he's like studied him and uses that to fight him. All of that is really interesting and it works as a really like great villain dynamic. And this is like a very, very evil villain. And James Gunn is great at writing villains like that are truly, truly evil. Not in every movie that he's done, but like think of the High Evolutionary from Guardians 3. Like he writes these villains that are evil in every way, and there's no redeeming qualities to him. And that's exactly what Lex Luthor is. And again, that speaks to Gunn's direction and writing, as well as Nicholas Holt's performance, because both of them just do a great job. I mean, Nicholas Holt is just, I think he stole the show in this movie. I think he was easily best performance of the cast, and that doesn't mean the other performances weren't good, but he was great, and I really enjoyed his portrayal of Lex Luthor. I think part of the dynamic between Corn Sweat and Brosnan is, and I might be butchering her last name by the way, I'm not 100% sure. I think part of the portrayal between those two is one of my negatives, but in terms of like when we did see their relationship on screen, I thought they were great together. Like that scene, the interview scene with them, which is like in the first 30 minutes and part of it's in the trailer, is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The way they bounce off each other, the way it's like half talking as Superman, but half talking as Clark Kent. Like I thought that was so interesting. And as someone who's in journalism too, I appreciate the journalism angle of that side with Lois Lane and her character. But particularly in this scene, like them bouncing off each other, and you've seen again a bit of it in the trailer, but you kind of learn a little bit more about Superman's psyche a little bit and kind of why he does what he does. And then there's a scene that comes later on between the two of them, which happens after this big revelation in the movie. And that really just, they're so good in that dynamic. And then right towards the end of the movie, there's a shot in the trailer where they're kind of kissing. That's towards the end of the movie. And that is just like a very satisfying conclusion. It's a very cute moment between the two of them coming off the last scene. So again, I'm going to talk about that a little more in my negatives because I think they could have used that a little bit more. But overall, like that part was really good, and their dynamic, which is something you have to nail in these movies. And I think again, is another thing that the Henry Cavill movies struggle with. I don't think him and listen, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, both great actors in their own right, but I don't think they really had a lot of chemistry. Whereas Corn Sweat and Brosnan, like clearly they auditioned together and they cast them together because of their chemistry because they were both so good. So that's kind of the main trio of the cast, obviously, but excuse me, everyone else was great too. And I think I have to start with the Justice Gang, which they called him in the movie. Green Lantern, which is played by Nathan Fillion. He was hilarious, and I really enjoyed him. I wasn't sure. Again, I don't really know about the character, but I wasn't sure about that casting going into this. But he does a really good job, and if nothing else, he's hilarious in this entire movie and his dynamic with the whole Justice Gang is really good. Isabel Merced as Hawkgirl. She didn't really get a lot to do, but I did really like the design of her character, and I did think she was very comedic with Nathan Fillion, and I didn't think she did a great job as usual, and I'd love to see more. But out of the three of them, Mr. Terrific, again, that's a character that I have never heard of before this. Again, I've never heard of Mr. Terrific. I knew he was going to be in this movie just because of the trailers, but I didn't really know anything about the character or his origins or his powers. But he was just a huge standout, and I loved his portrayal. He was amazing. Also a bit comedic, but just in general, like the scene where they are kind of going onto that beach where Luther's headquarters are, like his kind of satellite headquarters, and he's kind of taking out the guards with Lois Lane. Again, that's another one of my favorites of this whole movie. That was like such a sick scene. I watched this movie with my mom, and I turned to her and I was like, we need to keep him on our side because if he's on the other side, we're gonna have problems. So that was such a good scene, and his character was just so funny and so good. It's another one where I just would love to see him have kind of a spin-off show, but also just the whole Justice Gang, like those three, Green Lantern, and I know that Green Lantern's returning in the Lantern show. I don't know if he's really a big focus, but I know he's returning in that show. And then but like Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific. I know they're considering a Mr. Terrific spin-off apparently. That report came out this week, but I just love to see those three together again or separately. I want to see more from those characters and kind of in a project where they can more shine and we can see more of their backstory and stuff. Those three were great. I'm trying to think who else in the cast was really, excuse me, was really a standout. I guess those were kind of the main ones. I mean, there is kind of the Daily Planet gang, and again, as someone in journalism, I kind of love that side of it, and I really appreciated the fact that they didn't pull their punches about like the modern social media and communications and journalism side of things because they really portray it like this is how it would happen if Superman was put into today's society and how the public would react to him. And some sides love him, some sides hate him. Some footage is doctored. Now everyone hates him again. Like, I think I really appreciated that they really didn't shy away from the fact that like Superman, for all intents and purposes, is an immigrant. Like he's an immigrant coming from another country, and that is obviously going to ruffle a lot of feathers in today's society. And I think that them really committing to that, and also the war plot as well, obviously is kind of honing in on a certain political issue that I'm just not gonna get into, but it's obviously doing that with the war side of things. So I really appreciate that as well, is that they did make it very real and rooted as much as this is a huge comic booky movie. Like this is one of the most comic book movies you will ever see with kind of the characters that come in and the comedy and the fights and all like that. But I do think that that was still with all that was one of my favorite parts was how they portrayed that side of it and how we see Superman ingrained in the society and who respects him and who doesn't respect him and all that and how Nicholas Holt's character and Lex Luthor tries to just kill the public perception on him completely. And that's kind of how I do think things would go if he was in this society today. And I did appreciate that side of the portrayal. So that was really good. And I think that that was a side that again I really did appreciate because not only because I'm just in the journalism side of things, but because it just works really well in the constraints of this movie. I think my last kind of big positive is, and this review won't be as long as like a Marvel review for me would be, just because again I'm not a huge fan of this universe, so I just and it's like it's not this universe, just the characters in general. I don't hate this universe, it just never has jived with me. I don't hate people that do like it. Just want to make that clear as much as possible. But my last positive is that I can think of right now is the music in this movie. And James Gunn, from his past movies, specifically the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, is known for like these big needle drop moments and like these old 80s, 90s music drops and 2000s, 2010s, whatever. He's known for these like big music drops and like these songs playing on his soundtracks. But you can't really do that in this movie because it just doesn't really work with this movie. There is a couple songs in this movie, but like for the most part, you have to focus on like the actual original score. And I think their variation and kind of twist on the John Williams theme, the like original John Williams theme, which is what they do for this movie, that track specifically is so good. And like again, this movie didn't really hit me with like an emotional gut punch or anything, but like if it was going to, it was in those scenes where that theme is playing. Just that theme just evokes so much emotion, and that when they use it is so good and so careful and so meaningful and excuse me, I think that not only that, just like the general themes in this movie and like the small kind of what's the best way to put this? The small like calm themes that play during some of the like the more emotional moments and more tender moments. Those were really good as well. But just in general, that Superman theme, whenever that came on screen, I was just like leaning forward in my chair. I was like, yes, like let's do this. Like I'm rooting for Superman, whatever that theme is coming on. So that was the thing that really elevated this movie. And kind of just to wrap up the positives, and I'll probably say a couple more after I go into the negatives, but again, I really appreciated how Superman was so rooted in his humanity and so rooted in his hope and how he's this huge beacon of hope for humanity. I just love that element of it. And I like that. I love superheroes that like that. Like, no matter how messed up the world is in real life or in the comic world, no matter how messed up their world is, and no matter how much they've gone through, they still push through and persevere and kind of serve as an inspiration for the world and for the children of that world and for just everybody in the world. And his kind of monologue towards the end with Lex Luthor, towards the very end of the movie. And again, I'm not going to go into it too much because it would be a spoiler, but his monologue towards the end with Lex Luthor, where he talks about kind of being human, is, and as much as he is literally an alien from another planet, but talks about being human and how he's adapted to being a human. Like, it was just so good. And so, like, if there's any part that was going to get emotional, it would be that part. And so well written, so enjoyable. I mean, it's so emotional and so meaningful. And I really did think that that aspect of it and them portraying him as this hopeful figure is exactly what we needed out of a Superman movie and out of Superman the character, and something that at least the Henry Cavill movies are the only ones that I've seen, specifically like Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. They completely failed through that. And they did not do that at all. Whereas this movie is more bright and more beautiful and more hopeful, and I really appreciated that portrayal of it compared to the side of I don't know, of Henry Cavill that just doesn't really execute that well or doesn't even try to execute that well. So yeah, that's kind of my full positives. And again, I give this a 4 star. Like, this is a really good movie, a solid 4 star. But excuse me, this does not come without concerns. And I think that to me, this movie was not perfect. And there is a couple of things, but kind of the main big thing that I had that was my problem with this movie is it's very crowded and it is not very contained in one story. I think they throw you into this universe when it has already been going for a lot of years, and there's been superheroes that have already been active for many years. And especially in the first 30 minutes, like, they give us a lot of characters. They throw a lot of characters at us. Like, you get Superman, Lois Lane, Nicholas, or Lex, I keep saying Nicholas Holt, Lex Luthor, the whole Daily Planet group, which is like 5 more people, the Justice Gang, Metamorpho, there's other, like, people, I don't know, there's like a lot of characters. There's the president of that wartime country and all that. Like, you get all those different characters in like the first 30 minutes, and it took me a while to really get into this movie because I was like not confused per se, but I was kind of overwhelmed. Like, you're throwing me all these characters, I don't know who they are, whether I forgot about the engineer too and Ultraman. Like, you're throwing me these characters at me, and it just took me a while to really understand who they are as characters and what their motivations are. And again, I think if you are a DC Comics fan, you will be able to understand that more because, like, you know who these characters are. But as someone who went into it not knowing anybody besides from like Superman and Lois Lane and Lex Luthor, I was just a little bit like, all right, what's going on here? Like, I felt very overstimulated and very overwhelmed by how many characters they brought in. And I do understand why James Gunn doesn't want to do like this huge world building and doesn't want to have to build up, like, with the MCU. When the MCU started, the first couple of movies were solely origin stories with like one superhero in it, and kind of built up to that crossover in the Avengers at the end of phase one. But what the DCU is doing is throwing us into the universe when there already is a lot of superheroes active and introducing a lot of plot lines and characters in this first movie that can then spin off in other stuff. I already talked about the Lantern show that's coming out. I already talked about the fact there could be Mr. Terrific spinoff. There was rumors about like a Daily Planet Jimmy Olsen spinoff. So like, I see what he's doing there, and I can't say it's like a terrible choice, but for me, it did just take me a while to get into this movie. Like, the first 30 minutes, it was kind of just like, okay, here's this guy, here's this guy, here's this guy. And I was like, whoa, 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 like, who is this? Who is this? And by the time I try to figure out who this person is, there's another 5 characters coming on the screen. Like, it was kind of challenging for me to really get into it. And I don't really know how to put it besides from that. But I think it does get a little messy in that sense. And kind of related but not related, another concern I have that is a big concern is there is a lot of plot lines going on in this movie at once, and there's like 4 or 5 different storylines that happen to go on throughout the entire movie. There's like the 2 main ones, which is what is going on in Metropolis and what is going on in kind of that wartime bout. And I think those are the two main ones, but there is other stuff going on too. And at the same time, we're seeing these characters for the first time. So we're seeing Superman's character development and Lois's character development, and who are these heroes, who are these Justice Gang guys, and who is Lex Luthor, what's his origin, or what's his like motivations. Like we're seeing all this stuff at the same time, and I just felt like all of it wasn't a totally linear and contained plot. And that's what I personally would have appreciated a little bit more if we had like a more contained story and a more like less characters, I guess, like less things going on. I think part of it is because that this is the first movie in the DCU, and like not only are they introducing the character of Superman into this universe, but also they're introducing the whole universe in general. And again, like I'm not counting Creature Commandos because like I know that's canon and it was great. I love Creature Commandos, but it's an animated show that is like on another on another side of the world of this DC universe. Like I'm not really counting that. So like let's just say for argument's sake, this is the and it is the first movie, but like the first project in the DCU for argument's sake, they just threw us into it, and like I felt like there was so much stuff going on. And again, it kind of straightens out towards the end, and like the last hour, and you kind of get more of a linear plot line. But I mean, it kind of comes to a head at the end, and there's like the war thing happening at the same time as like this whole huge conflict in Metropolis going on. And I don't know if that's really been in the trailer, so I'm not going to really spoil what that specifically is. But basically, Lex Luthor sends a certain threat in the city. It's not even like a thing. It's like I don't know how to say it without spoiling it. But anyway, there's that going on, and there's the war thing going on at the same time, and they kind of come to a head again at the same time, and it just is a little bit messy, and it is not perfect. And again, I personally would have appreciated a more contained story, but I understand why some people it worked better for them, and this is more just a me thing. But that's like the main reason why I give this a 4 star, not a 4.5 or a 5, because there is a lot going on, and I don't think it is the most contained Superman story that they could have told. So that's kind of my main problem. The other smaller thing, I guess I have two more kind of smaller things, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, is that I think that, and I mentioned this earlier, but I think that the relationship between Clark and Lois, again, I think they had great chemistry together, and there were a lot of good scenes with them together, specifically that interview scene towards the beginning. But I think they kind of underutilized that relationship, and Lois herself was really, I thought, not used enough. And I think that I would have appreciated a more in-depth look at that relationship. And that kind of plays into my previous point. When you have all this other stuff going on with the Justice Gang and Metamorpho and Lex Luthor and this war in Baravia, like when you have these things, it's hard to tell a more personal, in-depth story with those two main characters. And I would have liked that a little bit more. I would have liked a little bit more in-depth, a little more of an in-depth exploration into their relationship. As I think that I get what they were doing with it, and there's kind of three parts to it. There's three long scenes. The interview, the one that happens after that big revelation about Superman's origins, and then at the end about the end when like the final conflict is done, they kind of had that moment which you see in the trailer. Like those are kind of the three parts of their relationship, and I see what they were doing there. But again, I would have liked just more Lois in general, but I'm talking about more of their relationship. I wanted to see more of them because I thought they were really good together and really cute together. And the moments they had together were really, really sweet and emotional. And again, I thought it was really, I'm a sucker for good comic book relationships. And I'm very critical about it though, because I hate forced comic book relationships. I hate relationships that aren't developed enough. And really the only ones that I really enjoy are the ones that are like very long term and developed over multiple projects or multiple comic book runs. And I'm not saying that that's not an option here because this is the first movie with them together. That's not really my point. But what I'm saying is like for me to really love a comic book relationship, it does take a lot. But when I do, I adore those relationships. And you got the Reed and Sue's of the world, the Rogue and Gambit's of the world. Like if you know me, those are the relationships I love. And with this one, I think I haven't totally got there yet. And there were points where I was there, but I didn't totally get there because I think they rushed it a little bit, and I don't think they spent enough time with it. So that's something where I wish they would have gone more in depth with it. And I think, again, if they told a more contained story, we could have seen more of the Daily Planet and we could have seen more of their relationship together. So, and that's another thing. Like, I'm a bit biased because I am in journalism, so I love the journalism side of things. But I would have really liked a Daily Planet, more of a Daily Planet side to things and them to be more involved. Because, like, besides from Lois and Jimmy Olsen, like the other people at the paper, like, Wendell Pierce's character and Michaela Hoover's character and the one sports guy that was there. I'm sorry, I just don't remember his name or the actor's name. Like that side of things, they were barely used at all. They were only in it for like a minute. So if that rumor, those rumors of like a Jimmy Olsen Daily Planet spinoff are true, I would love that. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's we don't need this. This is useless. It's not going to be a huge story." Like, I would love that just to see like the journalism side of things and see them explore a case and stuff like that. That's something I would love to see. So I don't know. I know people thought differently when they kind of heard that rumor coming this week, but still, with me, I wanted more of that. So yeah, I think that a lot of my complaints do tie in with the fact that this story has too much going on at once. And it's not even necessarily a bad thing. It's like, as far as DC goes, I think that this is a really good start. And this is a good start to the universe and the characters they bring in, and they did a good job with Superman and Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. Like that casting, those castings were good, and that's the most important thing. So I'll say like this is a very good start, but this is not the top that they can reach. I think they can reach a lot higher than this with their next couple movies, whether it's Supergirl or Clayface or the Batman movie that's coming out in a couple years. Not the Batman, but the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, like that movie, like or Lanterns or Peacemaker season two. Like I think these things can reach higher heights than this, and I don't think this is like a perfect movie by any means or a perfect DC entry. However, it does give me faith in the DC universe, and that is a sentence that I have never uttered before in my life. I've never said that before, that I do have faith in the future of the DC universe. And again, I think that this was a very good start, but I do think that the next couple projects are have the chance to be even better than this, like 4.5, probably not 5 star, but like 4.5 level. And I will say that this, my rating as a 4 star is probably like right in the middle. It's not closer to a 4.5 or closer than 3.5. Like this is, I felt the entire time watching this, besides from like maybe at the beginning that I might give it a little bit lower. I thought basically the entire time watching this that this would be a 4 star. And the highs are really high in this movie. Like the highs are great. And I think there's a lot of amazing, like there's a great shot with Superman. There's all the cinematography and shots and visuals are really good. I mean, I thought the flying was a little bit off, but I don't really know how you do Superman's flying right, so I don't really want to complain about that. But like overall, the visuals and kind of the aesthetic and his suit was great. That shot towards the end where he's kind of in that like cloud of smoke, just oh my God, so good. And the score playing, ooh. Like again, the highs are really good, but I do think that it is not without flaws and it is not a perfect movie. And I can see DC making, sequels with Superman that can be better than this. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say before this one little spoiler thing that I do want to get into. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think that I am excited, and by the way, I do want to say, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, like I'm very happy that Superman fans got this movie because I can tell that, and even watching it, even if I didn't hear this like personally from Superman fans that I know, watching it, I did really think that like this movie was made for the top tier Superman fans, and I think that's great. I think you can still make a really good movie that general audiences can enjoy while still making like the most comic accurate Superman movie possible. And I think that was a very big focus of them for this. And I did really appreciate that. And I am just generally like really happy to see, like, I'm scrolling my timeline and I'm seeing like Superman fans be like, this is the greatest movie ever. I cried. I've seen it 3 times already. Like, I love that. Like that's great. That's really and that's why this summer of comic book movies with Superman and Fantastic Four coming so close together, it seems like they're so different because they're from different universe or different like DC and Marvel, different comic book universes, but like they're so similar in the sense that like they are bringing back these iconic characters and finally trying to tell a accurate portrayal while also giving a good movie in general. So like I again, as a Fantastic Four fan, you'll hear me probably saying similar things to in two. That's the thing is like in 2 weeks, it's in less than 2 weeks I'm going to see Fantastic Four, and I can almost guarantee you that I am going to be higher on it than the general public because of this exact same reason for Superman is that Superman fans are going to appreciate this movie a lot more than me because of all the comic stuff in it and how comic booky it is. And it's going to be the same with me for Fantastic Four because as a lifelong Fantastic Four fan, I am guessing that that movie was made for those comic book fans. Again, stripping it down to the comic book origins. And that is why when somebody gives this movie a 5 star and says it's one of the best comic book movies, I don't blame them. I really don't. And I think I hope that they can feel the same way about my perspective and think that, this guy's not really a Superman fan or a DC fan. So I'm glad that he enjoyed it, but, he's not going to enjoy it as much as me. Like, I hope that Superman fans can, and again, if you're a Superman fan, leave the comments below if you think anything I'm saying is unfair. But, like, again, I do hope that if you are a Superman fan watching this, you can appreciate my take on things, and you can recognize that like it does take a lot for me to enjoy a DC movie. Like it does take a lot. It has to be really, really good for me to really enjoy a DC movie and a super movie, Batman, whatever, just a DC movie in general. And that is what this movie did. And I think that and I'm not trying to like boost my own ego or anything, but like I think that does speak a lot to how good this movie was and how well made it was. Is that I, as someone who does not literally care at all about the Superman character, I will care about his future appearances now. Like I will care about the if he has a sequel or if he appears in the Supergirl movie or in the Batman movie. Like I will be able to appreciate that now because they have gotten me invested in the character of Superman. So that is a great thing, and I think this movie did exactly what it needs to do. I think as a start to the DC universe, as a start to the Superman character, as an outsider who's not a fan, I think they did exactly what they needed to do with this character and with the start of the universe and kind of setting it up for more appearances for him as a character and more appearances in terms of like spin-offs with the other characters. So yeah, that's my general non-spoiler thoughts. And again, my spoiler section is only going to be like literally 2 minutes because I just have one cameo to talk about that was towards the end. But yeah, again, good start to the DCU, and I'm very happy with how this movie turned out. In James Gunn, we trust 100%. Love James Gunn. He's going to do a great job with his universe. And yeah, I guess we'll just get into spoilers real quick, and then maybe if I have any other thoughts that pop up between now and then, I'll talk about them in the end. So yeah, spoilers right now. If you have not seen the movie, click off right now. Or if you don't care and you haven't seen it, you can stay on here. It's just about a cameo towards the very end. This isn't like a big spoiler. It's literally just one cameo that doesn't affect the movie at all. But there was a Supergirl cameo at the end, and I thought that. Actually going into this movie, and I wish I tweeted it because I wanted to get it down, but I was like, I hope they give a Supergirl cameo in this movie because, like, listen, dude, again, I don't know the origins of this at all. I've never read a Supergirl comic. I never read a Superman comic, but I did know that they are like cousins and they do have this relationship on Krypton. And with the Supergirl movie being the next movie that DC is putting out, like, right? I think that it's July of next year, right? I think that's the next movie they're putting out. And they just finished filming it. With that coming next, I was really hoping that either in the post-credit scenes or at some point in the movie, we would get a Supergirl cameo or at least a tease to the movie. And we got that. Millie Alcock showed up in her Supergirl suit, a little bit covered up. They're kind of hiding it a little bit, but she showed up and kind of had a hilarious moment with Krypto. And I didn't even talk about Krypto in my positives. Oh my God. Oh no. Well, maybe I'll circle back to that at the end. I didn't even say that in my letterbox review either. Jeez, I'm just way off with that. I don't know why I didn't say that. I love Krypto. But anyway, there's a cute moment with her and Krypto, and then kind of like a little bit doesn't really tease the movie because I'm pretty sure the Supergirl movie like kind of takes place before that scene that we just saw, and I think that it's like an origin story. So I don't think that it's really the same thing. But I think like when we've seen her in this Superman movie, she's already gone through what happened in Supergirl. But anyway. I think that she is going to do such a great job in that role and seeing her in the suit and seeing like kind of her first moments and kind of how funny she is in that role. I think she's going to do great. And I love that cameo. That is definitely one of the movies that I am most excited for out of the ones they've announced. Like I think I could be even more excited for that movie than this Superman movie. And it's a little bit hard because I love James Gunn, but I think that there's a chance that that comic, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is what the Supergirl movie is based off, I have literally been recommended that by so many people. People have said I have never heard a bad word about it. People have said it's one of the best DC comic runs ever. So I actually do think that that comic will be the first DC comic that I ever read. And don't get your hopes up. It's not going to get me into reading DC comics. Like, I'm sorry. Even if I wanted to, I don't have time to because I've already have a 50 a million Marvel comics that I want to read, and I'm already following new comic runs for Marvel and stuff like that. So don't get your hopes up that I'm going to read DC Comics, but I think that this one might be the one and only comic that I read from DC because again, I've been recommended to it by other people, and that'll be where I can really make my full opinion on how I think Millie will do in this role. And I've only seen her in one thing, which is the Siren show that I reviewed on the website. I did a written review for it, but even from that, I just like fell in love with her as an actor because I think she's so charismatic and she can be so emotional and portray that emotion really well. And she did so like she was probably the best part about that series. She did so well in that series, and I think with that, and obviously the character she played in Sirens is very different than a superhero like Supergirl, but I do think watching that, I kind of became a fan of her as an actor and made me very excited for her future. I know like her big known role is House of the Dragon, and I've never seen Game of Thrones, so I just haven't seen House of the Dragon, and I probably never will. But I know that she's been nominated for awards for that, and that is kind of the reason probably she got cast as Supergirl. So I know she's great in that as well. But for me, I watched Sirens, and she was great in that, and the show was overall mediocre, but like she was the best part of it and really stood out. And I think that I'll have to read the comic first to really give you a full answer, but I do think after seeing her in this movie and kind of knowing her as an actor and how charismatic she is, I do think she's going to do a great job as Supergirl. And the suit looked great. I mean, it was very early look at it, but I think it looked very fresh and good and I actually liked how it looked. I think this is how it is in the comics, but I liked how similar it did look to the Superman suit as well. I thought it was really cool to like see them on screen together, and I really hope that we get to see them on screen together more. And I'm guessing Superman will be in the Supergirl movie. Like I don't know, but I'm guessing maybe he appears in the comic. I don't know, but it again to put like a bow on it, it's one of those things where like I am invested in the DC universe for the first time ever. Where like I see Supergirl in this movie and I get really excited and like I want to see that Supergirl movie. Now I already wanted to see it, but I think that people that are going into this universe fresh and don't know about any of the future projects and the fact that Supergirl is next or that Millie Alcock is cast, I think they're gonna watch this and be like, oh, she was cool. I'm gonna go watch Supergirl now. And this is exactly what DC has needed to not tell these just random disconnected stories, to tell a interconnected universe and try to connect the story together and get people hyped for them, like Marvel has done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, was really excited to see Supergirl, and that was kind of my one spoiler thing is I was excited to see her cameo. But to move past spoilers, yeah, if you've skipped past the spoiler section to get to this last part, the one thing I wanted to say that I forgot to say in my non-spoiler section is Krypto was amazing, so cute, so funny. Every time he was on screen, I loved him. It's such a classic James Gunn thing to have like a pet or kind of like a character like this to be such a like a leading role in the movie. And he did a great job with him in Krypto, and he was amazing. And I felt like terrible for him when bad things were happening to him and great for him when he was helping and he has a hilarious moment towards the end. And yeah, I think that he was great and that was another one of my positives. But yeah, that's it. I mean, I've given pretty much all my positives and negatives. Again, leave in the comments below what you thought of Superman and kind of give your experience with Superman. That's an important thing. Is like you don't need to do this, but like it is important to give your opinion and perspective on Superman that you had before watching this movie, before giving your review or your thoughts, because it really does explain more about why you gave the rating that you gave. And also, I'm just curious to see people's origins. I love seeing people that grew up reading Superman comics their whole life and dressing up as Superman as a kid, and now being able to finally get an accurate portrayal of the character. That's great, and I'm very happy for people that have gotten that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Superman. Again, 4 star, great solid start to James Gunn DCU, and I cannot wait to see their next couple projects. Obviously, we have Peacemaker season 2 coming up. I think we have Lanterns next year. Supergirl is kind of a big tentpole movie. Is Clayface next year or is that 2027? I think Clayface is next year, so I'm excited for Clayface too because I've always loved that character too. Because I said I like the Batman side of things. But yeah, excited for the future of DCU, and Superman was a great start to it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will be back next Friday or Saturday as always. I'm not sure what next week's video will be. There's not really a big release for me to talk about. So it'll probably be a Marvel episode. I am gonna do a preview for Fantastic Four before that comes out, but I'm thinking I'm gonna do that a couple days before it comes out, not the Friday before, because I don't want to like jump the gun too much on that. But I'm seeing Fantastic Four on July 24th, so I think if I'm going to do a preview episode for it, it's probably going to be Monday or Tuesday. So we might get like multiple videos in one week because, as you guys know, that is my most anticipated movie of the summer, and the Fantastic Four are my favorite superheroes, and I can't believe the movie is almost here. So that's exciting. But yeah, you'll hear from me next week as always, and I'll hopefully. There's not really much for me to write in terms of written reviews because there's not really many shows coming out right now that I want to review, and there's not like many movies that I can review, but. I guess we'll see if something pops up that I want to review or something I want to talk about and stuff like that. Maybe I'll hop on there. But next time, I guarantee you, and maybe there'll be breaking news from Marvel next week. That's always could be the case. Obviously, Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming up on filming, so we might get some casting soon. The Bernthal thing when that happened, I didn't get to record anything about it because I had just recorded. What was the video I just recorded? I think it was the unannounced dates for Marvel. That was my or the untitled dates for Marvel. So that was the thing I did before that. So I didn't get a chance to talk about that. But if there is casting news for Spider-Man Brand New Day or any other Marvel Studios projects, or like a big news piece that is breaking news, I will hop on here and talk about it for an emergency episode if I have the means. So again, you'll hear from me very soon. Thank you so much for watching my Superman review, and yeah, I will see you guys soon.